hi guys. When I was in my final year of school, the career counsellors came around and handed out a broadsheet newspaper like this. It was called the SADC Guide, and it basically told you several things, but one was the ATAR you needed, the score to get into your courses at university, and also requirements that you needed to complete for things like TAFE, a kind of community college. I believe even back then it had a range of salaries that you might expect to find over the course of your career. It was very cool. I kind of wish someone had given this to me a few years before that. I might have realised that school wasn't all about friends and fun, but you know, better late than never. But the important thing was, this got me thinking about something I've been thinking about ever since I was 17. What if we did this for all the jobs around the world? But instead of showing you the salaries you could accumulate for the years you've served or the expertise you've gained, it allocated you benefits. Let's say for fun, when you turned 18, you were given a minimal apartment, free public transportation, and a credit allowance for food, entertainment. Let's call this the base. At 18 or 21, the minimum needs for human existence, of food and shelter and movement. And let's say by the time you retired as, I don't know, a surgeon, a pilot, politician, or dare I say some of the most deserving in the community, like Hollywood celebrities, CEOs, or the gods, you are allowed, again, just ballparking here, 2 houses. One for every day and one for summer or winter vacations. 2 cars. And obviously you get a larger allocation for things like travel, holidays and entertainment. You can retire on what I'd like to call the ceiling, or the maximum needs for any one person or family's existence. You're a socialist, a communist. Not exactly. The mistake of a purely communist or socialist government is that the power and the money always ends up in the hands of the few at the top of the government. Conversely, in a capitalist system, it always seems that the money ends up in the hands of a few powerful individuals who've gained or inherited the system. The average guy, all 6.5 billion of us, always end up last. There is another way, what I like to call parity. And I've avoided using an ism, as it tends to conjure up all the failures of the past. You see, socialist or equitable sharing type governments tend to suffer from a lack of, shall we say, freedoms for the people. More specifically, the freedom to choose. Where's the entrepreneurial spirit? How do I pursue the passions that you seem to go on about all the time, average guy? And of course, capitalist societies only really grant the ultimate freedoms of travel or lifestyle, or even things like better representation under the law, to those with the deepest pockets. Parity simply puts a ground floor and a ceiling on what you can have in one lifetime on this planet. You can upgrade, you can add on to each and all the materials. As you produce more, you gain greater market share, or you simply move up through promotion or experience. But the basic ceiling still remains. All this could be labelled and laid out in a similar way to the guide that I mentioned earlier. Benefits and upgrades to choose from, as you exchange, service, or perform tasks, maintaining choices that are proven to be popular. Parity simply offers you the freedom to pursue and achieve your passions in life in any way you want. The benefits you get could be based on more traditional jobs that are required by government. Things like, the basic needs for hospitals and schools. These will give you, obviously, a more guaranteed security. Or they could be through your own ideas and efforts to run businesses based on your personal passions. The only difference is you're not paid in money, rather in success in your chosen field. Measured by the uptake of your product, the number of clients, the hours worked, in essence, not much changes, but the amount of material wealth you can accumulate. There are, however, a lot of changes in terms of the world we live in. Without the constraints of having to earn and worry about what cash you have, you can progress as far or as little as you want. Explore your passions and put your gifts to work, knowing that your basic human needs will still be there for you. Well, sad to say, for some countries, there is universal health care given under many systems, and would even exist in the USA. Solved. People in rich countries consume up to 10 times more natural resources than those in the poorest countries. 1/3 of all the food produced is lost or wasted. Around 1.3 billion tonnes of food, costing the global economy close to $940 billion a year. Accommodation is set and capped, allowing enough for all, but with each person able to still customise, improve, and work on their own dwellings, as well as to suit their style and the culture as they earn it. Replacing many car journeys with better public transport can help reduce CO2 emissions. Free networks of transportation will also reduce the clogging and pollution of cities. As you can see now, this is going to be a recurring theme in what we talk about. Habitats could be saved without the economic pressures on developing countries to exploit fragile resources and to use unsafe practices. Up to 10% of global greenhouse gases come from the food that is produced, but not eaten. A more equitable sharing of resources would assist development and help reduce critical pressures on the environment in developed and in developing countries alike. Casual work is the ever-growing norm in work life these days. Why are we punishing people who can't find traditional 9-to-5 jobs? Because they don't require it anymore. Why not make that time an opportunity to pursue more meaningful things, your passions, outside of the daily grind of the traditional job? Now, many jobs are being done more efficiently and cheaply by machines or AI. Humans are going to have more time on their hands. Instead of punishing people, why not prepare and reward people for seeking out new ideas and possibilities? Technology during COVID found many of us working from home, using tech for their organisation and their meetings. Working remotely is already a staple in many businesses, and they're not going back. No more refugees from hunger or climate change. Without the need to cross great distances to find a better life, people would be rooted to their home countries, as there's no benefit to move unless it's for pleasure or business. What's the incentive? Who's going to be transporting drugs and other illegal substances without a cash benefit? None. Governments would continue their defence work, this time for a global protection rather than for a country or regional protection. Again, we're already on our way with NATO and AUKUS and other large alliances. Forces would be allocated on a per capita basis. Without the competition to outwork and outdo and compete with everyone materially, people will have more time to share, more time to swap stories and enjoy their culture, their passions, and begin to see a common purpose. Why not? Cash used to be king. In the 80s, we introduced cash machines, ATMs. They soon replaced traditional tellers and banking staff numbers fell away. Then we made credit cards, debit cards, king in the 90s. First mechanically, then digitally. No cash needed. And now in the 2020s, we simply use cash apps to digitalize our transactions. Now, why can't we use a similar system of credits or benefits on an accumulated system? No one needs to walk around anymore with a suitcase full of cash. We use a non-physical system to call up just about everything we do now. Not just banking, but our medical records, our voting registries, our sales history. Of course, these days, with autonomous shopping or just walk-out systems that detect customers and their choice of products and then bill them for the products at the end of their shopping experience is already coming true. Even if it still needs a lot of tweaking, it's a precursor. As you can see, even our personal likes and dislikes through platforms are recorded and guided with algorithms. Bit currencies even take the idea of currency of wealth to another level of imagination and perception. The point is, it's already happening. Well, I based Parity on two different kinds of ideas I'd seen. One is probably the oldest form of trade known to man, while the other, the kind of future that is inevitable for our species to progress. Barter was used for almost all of our history before money, trading one's goods or services for another. And I've even used it myself and seen members of my family use it on occasion. I don't think we used the exact term. We may have called it a fair exchange or a swap. And as to the future, the elimination of money is seen in so many science fiction series, like Star Trek. It's the only plausible outcome for the human species. People are no longer spending their time counting pennies, but pursuing the jobs and the passions that they've decided to do. It makes sense. We're not going to explore and live in space on Mars or the Moon as Russians and Chinese and Americans. It'd be laughable to meet another species and say, we come in peace as Australians, but not those bloody New Zealanders. We're already formed into blocks or economic zones, so it's not impossible to imagine an Earth system that is not at war with itself constantly. So, like most things, it's not totally unique, but it's never been tried before, especially on a global scale. No, not really. You still get more benefits the more you achieve. Power, prestige, the ability to make changes, they're all still available to you. We have to ask ourselves though, is it right for an actor to earn 1,000 times the salary you could earn in a lifetime? Aren't some people just as deserving? Maybe even more so? Let's say a doctor working for Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders.
There is something profoundly wrong in our country when the top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That is immoral, that is wrong.
Oh, and have you ever noticed how CEOs or government ministers are so much smarter than you or I? They can move smoothly from company to company. Say, the head of Ford becomes the CEO of Boeing. Directors of vastly different services can transition to another and hold multiple roles all at once. How is it that the Minister for Health can suddenly become the Minister for Defence? Amazing! No new degree needed, no training in these seemingly vastly different areas of competence. It's just their unique knowledge of everything. In fact, some people I've learned are so good they can assume all the leadership roles themselves. Of course, they've got a whole department of underlings to help feed them what they need to say, and then their leadership skills can take over. But is that a skill beyond you or me? It seems within the capacity of anyone with a basic human resources degree. So why the massive wage? Yet there they are, they're going from job to job, never losing status, eventually ending up getting even more lucrative jobs as they become the spokesperson for some obscure think tank that guarantees the wealth stream continues. How can we, the human race, live without them? Now, I'm not saying it's not these people's passions to get where they got. However, would they still do it for the same pay as, I don't know, a high school principal? Without the golden handshakes, without the perks for life. So does the passion remain when they're not paid exorbitantly? It's just a thought. The more pressing problem is the people now screaming at me, "It'll never happen! You're not taking my wealth!" Whether it's the perceived wealth you feel you might come into, or some wealth you've already gained, who's going to accept parity when I can climb over you to get more stuff for me? Well, I've got news for you. We've already tried, and it's going to happen again. Our monkey brain never changes because it's the right thing to do, because it's the smart thing to change the way society functions. It's usually because it's forced on us. So, in my opinion, after 40 years of trying to find John Lennon's Imagine moment, my prediction is it's not going to be all good news. But that's a story for next time. Till then, you better have fun.